Xbox finds itself in a very strange position because, I feel like Microsoft could have really did something amazing if they would have kind of stuck with what they were doing, right? Like if they would have stuck with one plan throughout the whole generation, had a better plan throughout the whole generation. And I think that the way that Sony has shot themselves in the foot, because a lot of people think that I'm some big PlayStation fan, and honestly, that's not the case at all. I like PlayStation, but to think that I'm like some huge, massive PlayStation fan would be very much inaccurate. And, I have to say and kind of point this out, that it does feel a lot like what Microsoft does realistically kind of helps out Sony in a lot of ways, because they shoot themselves in the foot, and they do this repeatedly over and over and over and over again, unfortunately. And so, when you see that kind of happen, you go, man, what could have happened if Microsoft would have actually stuck with the plan, did something, and and people would have seen that. Imagine the games that are coming out now for Xbox, and those games were all games that that would have been exclusive or whatever, and they wouldn't have raised prices. They would have handled things differently. I think things could have definitely been different. Is things ever gonna? Obviously Microsoft decided to go in a different direction, and that's unfortunate. But you hope for the best. And right now, what's happening at Xbox is a lot of that. You're just kind of hoping for the best at this point, and hoping that things kind of turn around. Is that going to be something that they're able to accomplish? I don't know. I'm not sure. But the cool thing is, we're going to at least get to see, I guess. We'll see. We'll see how that kind of works. But like I said, it's been a very strange kind of situation. And here's something that, is really weird and could bode really poorly for Xbox. So, High on Life 2 came out recently. It launched day one on Xbox Game Pass, right? And they did an interview talking about it and things like that. Like, oh, okay, yeah, here it is. It's, High on Life 2, blah, blah, blah. But the CEO commented on High on Life 2 launching on multiple platforms, calling the PS5 release a no-brainer despite the first game being an Xbox exclusive. So, if you're unfamiliar, High on Life is like this satirical first-person shooter packed with kind of fast-paced gunplay and quick quips, edgy humor, that kind of stuff. The first game launched exclusively on Xbox Game Pass in 2022. Now, let me take you back to 2022. Believe it or not, this game, I think, broke all the records for players of a new launch or whatever. Something like 7 million or whatever. And 2022, if you don't remember what Microsoft launched in 2022, it was a big fat nothing, right? Microsoft launched 0 AAA first-party games in 2022. So this game was pretty big, and the reason being is people wanted something to play. We didn't really have anything to play, and so, there you go. On top of that, the game launched there, and then it launched on PlayStation 4 and PS5 the following year. This time around, however, High on Life 2 is launched across multiple platforms from day one, reviewed better as well, and, again, obviously Microsoft doesn't really push platform exclusivity. So the sequel released on Game Pass, suggesting Xbox may have supported the project in order to secure its inclusion. It also supports, some of those things or whatever, but they're kind of weighing in on this stuff a little bit. And the main point that kind of it sounds like to me is, honestly, it just quite honestly sounds like if it weren't for, the game being in Game Pass, they might not have even bothered, putting it on Xbox in the first place, right? Because even though the first game was an Xbox exclusive and it supposedly did extremely well on the platform in Game Pass and all that kind of stuff, right now the PlayStation version for this one was the lead platform. And so that kind of tells you everything you need to know about where Xbox is currently. Unfortunately, if you're an Xbox fan, it doesn't sound like it's a good spot to be in overall. And, again, like what's going to happen in the future with this kind of stuff, I don't really know. But The CEO was very frank throughout the interview. Transparency is always appreciated. And when asked about the potential loss of sales due to Game Pass, he admitted he wasn't sure whether the exposure outweighed the potential cannibalization of sales. That doesn't mean he dismissed Game Pass. He added it would help establish an IP, so getting a bunch of people to play your game. At this stage, Squanch is still thinking long term. He also acknowledged that the franchise is still in its building phase. According to him, the best way to do that is to give away and get as many people in their hands as possible. However, with broad access matters, platform performance still tells its own story. Yeah, it's kind of crazy. He noted that, shockingly, even after a delay on Sony launching on the PS4 and PS5 because of an exclusivity clause with the first game that Microsoft had, that PlayStation is still their lead platform. That reality made a simultaneous PlayStation launch a, quote, no-brainer. He said, quote, if you're a PlayStation player, you're going to buy it on PlayStation. You're not going to play it on Game Pass. And with the recent subscription increase on Game Pass, I'm sure you've probably seen subscriber numbers go down, so those people have to play it somewhere. Now, it is worth mentioning, as Tech Radar does, that his comments are not based on concrete data, and loss of subscriptions following Game Pass price hike is unknown. But actually, we do know that subscriptions have gone down somewhat because obviously they did their quarterly reports and things like that, and it wasn't exactly gleaming for that side of things. So, again, I think it is pretty concrete that they did lose some type of subscriber numbers. After all, the website where you cancel your subscription crashed when they tried raising the prices and stuff like that. So, but again, isn't it a little bit weird that this game, which launched first and exclusively on Xbox, now looks at Xbox as kind of an afterthought? I don't know, to me that is so strange that this is, it's kind of happening the way that it is. And I'm sure a lot of people kind of have some different thoughts and ideas behind this. Maybe you guys think differently than I do, but yeah, it's kind of crazy to me that this is happening the way that it's happening. Xbox gamers, do they buy games? It's a really weird situation to be in, because it's clear that they don't buy games, and they don't have the impact even if they do buy games, because they don't have the console sales there, you know what I mean? So they don't have the console sales needed to really be impactful to be able to do those things. So again, it's crazy to look at how this game was a huge success supposedly due to Xbox or whatever. I mean, was this game not successful because of Game Pass before? That's the thing that I guess I kind of question. There's not really an answer to that. It's kind of crazy to me to see that we don't actually see them say, oh well, was it really successful? You just want to get people to play it. I get, but if you're not making anything on those, you know what I mean, what good does it do? I think that's probably the really big issue right there. So, again, I think that it really kind of comes down to how you kind of feel about it, how individually, that would be something that I think makes a lot of sense. But to me, anyway, it does really make it seem like, hey, if it wasn't for this game going into Game Pass Day 1, they had very little idea of putting things on Xbox or supporting Xbox, which is strange to me. I don't understand it personally, but maybe you guys do. Maybe you guys are the ones that kind of get this a little bit better than I do. I'm kind of trying to read between the lines here, and it's absolutely insanity that this kind of stuff happens. And this is realistically something that kind of happens from time to time, and gamers are obviously going to be fickle and continue to be fickle and things like that. But what's going to happen in the future with stuff like this? Is Microsoft going to be able to continue to even compete? Are they hoping that that developers, their hope is, from the looks at it, that people just put stuff on Windows and there's only one version or whatever, but not every developer even supports Windows. So what happens then? I mean, is the thought, well, they can just get it on Steam? But again, to is that even going to be something that Xbox fans want? I mean, if you're an Xbox fan and you've built up, achievements and all that kind of stuff, do you really want to just play? I mean, couldn't you have done that yourself and got a PC years ago? Like, to me, it just doesn't make sense. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.